My guest today is Mwalim DaPhunkee Professor, and I am happy to have him back here on Healing Wisdom. I'm your host, Pandora Peoples. Mwalim is an award-winning playwright, author, composer, and educator. He's the co-founder of the multi-Grammy-nominated band The Groovalados and a member of the underground dance collective Wamptronica. We're talking about Thunderchild from the Oversoul Theater Collective, which is happening October 10th at 7 p.m. at Wellfleet Preservation Hall. Thunderchild draws on decades of experience to offer a performance that is as fierce, funky, and fearless as the griot tradition demands. We're going to be speaking with Mwalim, but first we're going to hear his song, Your Hands.
Peaceful and calm, even though your hands fit in mine, you got my soul in your hands. Even though your hands fit in mine, you got my soul in your hands. I love the way that it feels when you lay your head on my chest. Close my eyes and I feel you. I love the way that it feels when you lay your head on my chest. I close my eyes and I feel you. Even though your hands fit in mine, you got my soul in your hands. Even though your hands fit in mine, you got my soul in your hands. I love the way that it feels when you lay your head on my chest. Close my eyes and I feel you. I love the way that it feels when you lay your head on my chest. Close my eyes and I feel you. Slipping in and out of dreams, you're always there with me, taking in what it all means, just to see what's meant to be.
So tell us about your genre-defying performance, Thunderchild, happening October 10th at Wellfleet Preservation Hall. We're really looking forward to it.
Well, all right. Thunderchild is, if you will, a sequel to, I have a performance piece called A Party at the Crossroad that I actually first presented back in 1996. Oh my God, that is so long ago. But anyway, in 1996, I first presented that. And actually, the first place I performed it was at the Falmouth Public Library. And then subsequently at the New Eurekan Poets Cafe in New York City, and then it just sort of took off from there. And a couple of years ago, back in 2023, I did an updated version of it at the Katuitt Center for the Arts. And the really fun part with that was my son, who wasn't even born when I did the original, directed it for me. And it was his directorial debut, and he actually did it as part of one of his courses for, he was graduated, but he was at Goddard College at the time. And so that was one of his production classes that he did this in conjunction with. But a party at the crossroad, we update, like I said, we updated, so it was like, okay, so this is the story picking up now, basically 25 years later. And Thunderchild, I wanted to sort of keep something in that vein, but looking at like when I wrote a party at the crossroads, I was in my 20s. I'm now approaching 60 and wanted to write something that talked about the new crossroad, talked about entering the stage of being an elder. And in Mashpee Wampanoag, I already am an elder. You become an elder at 55. So I'm part of the Elders Council. But just sort of looking at things from that point of view, looking at how did I look at things when I was in my 20s and how do I look at them now? What do I see about the world now that didn't quite exist when I was in my 20s? What, good, bad, indifferent. And even in terms of talking about being an artist and the arts and concepts of, the constant exploration of who are we? Who am I? And just looking at it from that standpoint of the evolution of age, experience, and the blend of genre. One of the big things with Thunderchild is looking at in having a career as a studio session musician. One thing that I found particularly interesting about music in the United States is it's very, very genre oriented. And what I found out is when you start to take apart the concept of genre in the United States, it's almost always racially based, if you look at it historically or presently, and not musically based. It's the interesting thing of you could have one artist do a song, and if they're white, it's punk rock. If they're black, it's hip hop. And just trying to understand how does that work exactly? And why isn't the black person's music punk rock? And why isn't theirs? So just sort of looking at that switch up. And so Thunderchild is just sort of on one level, it's challenging our concept of music genre and purposely. And in another, it's also just looking at, when you reach a certain age, you see things very differently. And just standing on the edge of reaching that age, I guess you could say. So that's really, so Thunderchild is sort of that, that when you're in your 50s, you're at that awkward age because you're not really an elder and you're not really young. So it's a piece about being at that awkward age, I guess you could say, a musical piece.
Three stones in my hand. Well, I went down to the crossroads with 3 stones in my hand, hoping to find the answer from a wise old man. He wore a 3-piece suit and had 3 rings on his hand. Rings on his hand. Told me sit on down, and that's where it all began. I said, Barbara, oh Barbara, one thing I want to know. Barbara, oh Barbara, teach me how to make that rooster crow. Played his guitar, handed it to me, and said, it's your turn to go. Told me to make the rooster crow. Make that rooster and follow whatever catches your third eye. Well, I left the crossroads with a guitar in my hand. Well, I left the crossroads with a guitar in my hand. Thought I knew the answer to a master plan. Thought I knew the answer to a master plan.
Can you talk about the significance of the crossroads? It's a theme that's repeated in different cultures, like in Haitian culture for Legba, there's like these drawings that are made with sand that are representative of crossroads. In the Kuya Indian culture,
Oh yeah.
their crossroads mean something to them.
Crossroads. Funny you mentioned the leg walkers. Let me show you something.
Oh, cool.
I wear him over my heart.
Nice.
But that's one of the things with Eshu Elegua. In fact, really funny. My, I guess you could say, introduction to Elegua. I was in college and I went to Boston U, but I was back home in New York for the holidays. And I was supposed to go talk to this gentleman at the National Black Theater, which was on, we talk Crossroads, on the corner of 125th and Fifth Avenue. So you go there, if you're going there from where I lived in the Bronx, you took the 2 train. The 2 train let you off at the corner of 125th and Lenox Avenue, which, by the way, is the corner of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Boulevards. As I'm waiting to cross the street, this elderly lady, from her accent and her carriage, I would say she was probably of Cuba, but elder. She looks at me and she said, "Do you mind if I touch your forehead?" And I'm like, "No." I mean, it sounded weird to me, but no. So she touches my forehead and she starts to chuckle and she drops 3 pennies in my hand and said, "Hold on to those because your father's going to want them." And I'm like, "You know my dad?" I mean, this is but the funny thing is, so I'm given these pennies and I hold on to them and I'm like just thinking that was an interesting thing. Well, I go to the National Black Theater and I meet the general manager, a man named Nabi Fazon. And I'm just like, just had a very interesting experience and tell him, and he starts laughing. And he said, "It's like she knew where you were going." And I said, "Like she knew where I was going." It turns out the National Black Theater was basically built as a Yoruba temple. It was a Yoruba celebration of art and theater and that type of thing, down to even the stage had a altar to Ochun. And when you go up the stairwell, the mural on the way up the stairwell basically is sort of the Ifa, the story of the creation and the seven powers. So he then explained to me that, oh, the woman recognized you're a child of Elegua. And that's why she gave you the 3 pennies for your father. And then he told me how to dispose of them. He said she's going to want them some point. He said, oh, so he explained to me how to walk the crossroad. He said, at some point, he said, you don't have to do it today, but at some point you walk the crossroad and this is how you do it. And then you thank your father. And that's how you give them to your father. I was like, oh, okay. And so that was one of my introductions to the crossroad. One of my many introductions, I should say, to the crossroad. And it was just the funny thing of when I pledged my fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha. When you have a pledge class, your pledge class takes a name, and the name of our pledge class was the Crossroads. So this became a recurring concept to me over and over. And of course, then understanding Yoruba and the offshoots, if you will, La Kume and Santeria, there would be nights where I'm in the Bronx and it would be a Monday night and I'm on like the Grand Concourse and you come to an intersection and you'd find a dead chicken and candles and glasses of rum and cigars and so it was sort of like, okay. And in studying folklore and folk tales, and especially when they talk about Robert Johnson, And, the big legend is Robert Johnson went to the crossroad in the Delta and met the devil, and the devil taught him to play guitar. And I'm saying, no, that's more colonization. As I'm studying, I'm like, no, that's more of that colonization thing. Because what we're saying, what really happened was if he went to the crossroad, he met Eshu, and Eshu was the one who taught him to play the guitar. But of course, the habit is anything that's not about the church is the devil. That's part of colonization. So, decolonizing the story is recognizing that no, Robert Johnson met Eshu Elegua at the crossroad. So these are all of the concepts that sort of like circle back.
Yeah, yeah. And gossip can be bad enough without colonization.
Precisely.
I had first saw you perform with Joe Govea at the Cultural Center in Yarmouth,
I
like probably 12 or 13 years ago. And so that was a while back.
Oh yeah, actually it was about 13 years ago because I believe that was when Lamont Steptoe.
That's right.
Yeah, why I also remember my son is now 22 and he was 9 because he was sort of fidgety and Lamont said, "Hey, why don't you take pictures for me?" So Zig became his photographer that evening. But
Yeah, and it was a wonderful performance.
oh,
And,
thank you.
you were great, and Joe was great. Lamont Steptoe was great. It was a really powerful time, and I thought, oh, I'm in a really good place. Like I'm really happy.
Nice.
Like I was supposed to come here. Yeah, definitely. So, and it's really cool to have seen. Like I was like, oh, you brought your kid. How cool! And I did pick up on that he was paying attention to what you were doing, and now he paid such good attention. But now
I mean,
he's part of it. And
oh, well, he's part of it and is even off on his own. You have ZYG 808 shows happening virtually every week, and he's out doing his thing. And luckily picked up on my concept of, you don't lock yourself into a genre because you'll see him do a hip hop show, you'll see him do a rock show, you'll see him do an alt show, you'll see him do a roots show, and basically sticking to his same music, sticking to himself in every single stage that he steps on. So I'm very proud of the young man, and realized he paid more attention than we thought.
the Oversoul Collective, can you talk about that?
Oh, certainly, Oversoul Theater Collective. And if you notice, our colors are red and black for a reason. But Oversoul Theater Collective started back in '94. It was an interesting dynamic on Cape Cod. I mean, it still very much exists. But when I came back, I'd gotten out of film school. And when I came back to the Cape, and I'd been part of a theater company in Boston, New African Company, come back to the Cape, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to do some theater, theater out here. Let's see what we can do. And found doors closing in my face left and right. I mean, to the point of not even being allowed to audition. There was an audition for a musical in Barnstable. It was Brigadoon, and I guess I didn't look Scottish enough, so they wouldn't even let me audition. And then they did let me audition at one of the companies in Falmouth, and they said, "You were wonderful, and we're thinking of doing To Kill a Mockingbird, and you'll make a so it's like, again, oh, great, you're waiting to do the play with the black guy who dies, and you want me to play him. That's really nice. Okay, fun." And started talking to other performers on the Cape, dancers, other theater people, and came to find they were encountered the ones who were white presenting were getting work. The ones who were not, it was kind of like that, well, we'll call you in for Black History Month, or we'll call you in, if we have a black part, or if we have a part that doesn't matter what race the and we kind of got tired of that. So we decided we formed a theater company. We formed a theater collective. Initially, our first collaboration was actually with Hyannis Center Theater before they closed. We did George Wolfe's The Colored Museum. And then we started doing a youth theater workshop in Mashpee, as an after school program in the middle school. And we just sort of kept those dynamics going. And so Oversoul Theater Collective then just really became a full-fledged arts organization in terms of doing things with theater, with music, with poetry, and a lot of the subsequent collaborations we did with Joe back in the days of the Prodigal Son Coffee House. in Hyannis used to be on Ocean Street. We did a lot. He had the Cape Cod Poets Theater, and we had Oversoul Theater Collective. So we were doing all kinds of collaborative efforts and that kind of thing. But yeah, Oversoul, like I said, started in '94. We started doing things in '97 down in New Bedford. And then in 2000, we actually had a branch in New York City. In New York, we were called the Urban Expressionist Lab, but we had a theater program running down there, and a lot of people who are now theater professionals came through our doors initially for training. So, that's what the company's been about, and that's what it's still about.
That's gratifying.
Oh, very, very. And it was recognizing, sometimes it's not about, recognizing the divisive nature of people and how things can sometimes happen in terms of race. It's not always about asking permission or asking for a place at the table. Sometimes it's about just build your own table, because you might even come up with a better meal. And it turns out we did. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So, can you talk about the term oversoul a little bit?
oh, certainly.
I love words.
Oh yeah, with oversoul, where the term came from, because some people thought that our motto was a little dystopic, because we used to say Oversoul Theater Collective, life's a stage, and because we were looking at oversoul in terms of, well, Freud talks about it in terms of you have the id, the ego, and the superego. And if you have the id is basically the lower self, the inner child, as it were. The ego is the self that's present in the world as we see it, and the superego is sort of like that higher self that governs you with your loftier goals. Well, the superego, as Freud would call it, could also be referred to as the oversoul. That's the part of yourself that's the spiritual element that goes beyond your physical realm. For people who believe in reincarnation, it's the oversoul that is the constant that renews and is reborn. So what we were looking at was, in terms of theater, when an actor takes on a character, they're going through a transformation to become that character, but they're still who they are. And the character basically becomes that earthly form. So with Oversoul Theater Collective, it was basically that same kind of thing of, it's the artist as the spiritual realm taking on that earthly form for the purpose of presentation. So that's where we pulled the name from.
Let's hear a sweet memory from Mwalim and the Groovalatos.
You just need to be a sweet memory for me. Let me remember you before you did the things that you do. Don't say a word or you will ruin the good thoughts I had of you. You just need to be a sweet memory. You had me feeling like a kid again, talking on the phone all night. My heart would be racing until I was facing you. It was true, you had me through and through. I was so into you, I was straight tripping. You were steady whipping me with that good stuff, of which I couldn't get enough. Then came a clarity, you were all wrong for me. Now I see, you just need to be a sweet memory for me. Let me remember you before you did the things that you do. Don't say a word or you will ruin the good thoughts I had of you. tried gaslighting me, but the game was poorly played, and the noise you made put light on your shade and ended your masquerade. I was straight tripping, you were steady whipping me with that good stuff of which I couldn't get enough. Then came a clarity, you were all wrong for me. Now I see you just need to be a sweet memory for me. Let me remember you before you did the things that you do. Don't say a word or you will ruin the good thoughts I had of you. You just need to be a sweet memory. Let me clear my mind. In the space I'll find why I was so blind to your spells that bind. In the days and times, something will remind me of why I was ever here. It'll one day be clear. You just need to be a sweet memory for me. Let me remember you before you did the things that you do. Don't say a word or you will ruin the good thoughts I had of you. You just need to be a sweet memory.
Yeah, Thunderchild is just kind of it's storytelling, it's conversational, it's recounting memories, funny stories, sometimes not so funny stories. But basically it's just that nice little point of view. It's my one man shows have been somewhat inspired by Mark Twain, from what I read in his later years, used to go around and do storytelling performances. And they would just be conversations. He would smoke a cigar and tell people what he thought. And I figured, okay, now if Mark Twain could sing the blues and play a guitar, maybe his show would have sounded like this. So it's that same type of thing. It's you think of Americana storytelling. It's you think of Arlo Guthrie, Woody Guthrie, well, Arlo with Alice's Restaurant. He's a big influence, by the way, on my approach and style of storytelling. I remember hearing him first when I was in high school, and it just sort of took root. But it's that kind of show. It's that kind of perspective, and it's honest, it's raw. It'll make people laugh. It'll make people think. Of course, if you want to come see a show with some great music, this is a show to come see.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to the performance. Thunderchild happens October 10th. That's a Friday at 7 o'clock. Doors open at 6:30. Folks can get tickets at wellfleetpreservationhall.org. Thank you so much, Mwalim, DaPhunkee Professor, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you. And look
you.
forward to seeing everybody. I look forward to seeing everybody, and I mean everybody. Let's pack the hall on October 10th at 7 p.m. and come experience some Thunderchild. Wear a coat to the fire, dance backwards in a circle. Your own karma's only thing that can hurt you. One thing needs to be understood. Good medicine rarely ever tastes good. Now things are about to go wild, so now you wanna check the style. Make way for the Thunderchild, make way for the Thunderchild.